Well, everybody, this is my husband, Jed. He's actually going to be doing this morning's segment. And it's because in our business, we have very specific roles. I've said it a few times. I am not a technical person. That is Jed. So I'm very thankful because if there are any technical questions that anybody in the audience or online has about our workflow or any computer stuff, he's going to be the guy to ask. So today, this morning, will be your chance. So I think really ultimately what Jed and I worked on late last night was was using and pulling in some of the images from the shoot yesterday. That way you guys can see what the images look like. And so really just to take them and implement them into some of our workflow things and kind of show what an image was, how we kind of proof it, but then even taking it that next step further. So I think with that, go for it.
Yeah, we tried to petify my program last night with images that include pets because my program typically does not include pets. So we took a lot of images that Vicki shot over the last couple days and inserted them in here so to make it a little bit more applicable to what we're talking about. So I'm going to go over some workflow stuff. And a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about are really going to focus on making what you do in post more efficient and trying to maximize the amount of time that you're spending in post. A lot of the things that I'm going to talk about are specific to our studio, but can also be applied to everybody else. We had a bigger space, and now we've downsized quite a bit. So we've gone through quite a bit of an evolution in the last couple years anyway. But we've been out of our house, huge studio, smaller studio, so we've kind of been all over the map. And a lot of the stuff that I talk about will apply to wherever you're at in your business. If you're a one-man show or a one-woman show, or if you have 3 or 4 employees, you can apply a lot of these principles that I'm talking about to what you're doing. I'm going to start off with a few tips here regarding Lightroom. And some of these are subjective too, but again, this is just kind of the way that I do it. One of the number one things that I do in Lightroom is that I create a new catalog for every session. And we use primarily Lightroom to edit and to cull and edit, make some adjustments to our images. We have some presets, and then Photoshop to do a lot of design or even further retouching, stuff like that. So those are the 2 programs. I mean, Photoshop for us is still the mothership of all applications, and it's where I feel the most comfortable doing whatever I want to do. But Lightroom is fantastic for culling down and applying, syncing a bunch of adjustments across the board, white balancing, color correcting, things like that. But my tips for Lightroom, I have 5 of them that I typically throw out to people. Create a new catalog for every session. That's the way we do it. Now, someone can argue the other way. Like someone can argue, I want every image that I've ever shot in one catalog so I can do quick searches and I can, look through every image all in the same catalog. That's fine. We found that for us, it's better to create a new catalog for every session so every client has their own Lightroom catalog. They're smaller. If one of them becomes corrupt, I don't have to worry about it. It's probably backed up somewhere else on our server. But I'm not dealing with a gigantic catalog with tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 images in it. I don't want to do that. Render one-to-one previews when you're importing, and that is here. I have Lightroom open, and when you import in your library module in Lightroom, this box comes up, and this is where you can change that. And we render one-to-one right when we import the images. Now, we do that because that way the rendering is on the front end, and as I'm cycling through images, I'm not waiting forever. And we do one-to-one because we want to look at the sharpness around the eyes and really zoom in. You can, if you're just going to be like culling something like a first edit, they don't have to be rendered one-to-one. You can render them standard or even smaller, so you can just quickly go through and not have to worry about zooming in on the images. But if you want to zoom in and check for sharpness, I'd render one-to-one. Now that's going to take more time on the front end, and you have to wait a little while, but I'd go get a sandwich or a drink or something. I get a sandwich a lot. Like every time that my computer's doing some work, I just say, I just go grab a cheeseburger or something. And unfortunately, that's not an exaggeration. Like that's fairly accurate. So render 1-to-1, that way most of the work's done up front, and then you can click through your images really fast and look for sharpness if you want to zoom in. Here's the big one, and this is, like the bottleneck. Every time I talk to a group like this, it's been 8 years I've been doing this, I talk to a group, I always say, like, what's the bottleneck? And everyone's like, I just have so many images to edit. I just have so much to do in the back. And they're like, what should I do? And I just say, shoot less. Just don't shoot as much. And I know that's easier said than done. I get it. I'm not a photographer, but I'm not, a stranger to the fact that it's, it's digital. You can just fire off, spray and pray or whatever people call it. And I know that there are some times, especially like if you're photographing pets or if you're photographing a wedding or something like that, where sometimes spray and pray is somewhat necessary, maybe forgivable in certain situations. But I tell people shoot less. And I know that there are people out there that have the opposite philosophy, and that'll say, you're not doing it right if you're not going to a wedding and shooting 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 images. And that makes me want to puke. I'm sorry for getting where I'm at. Don't do that, don't do that. I tell people shoot less, and I know that, you can edit in Lightroom really fast. Well, I don't care if you're the best editor in the world. You can edit 1,500 images faster than you can edit 5,000. A lot faster, and it's just taking up less space and it's taking less time to import. There's a million different reasons to shoot less. I tell people, become familiar with your camera. Those muscle movements that, the different settings and things that you have to change, even on the fly, even as things are happening with pets and you're outdoors or at a wedding and it's just chaos. I get it, but the muscle movements that you're doing to change settings on your camera, your client should be watching you like this, not like this. They should see you like this as much as possible. So learn how to shoot, learn how to light, learn how to pose. Lighting should be like second nature, in any situation. And that's what you guys are doing, that's what you're furthering your education. But those are the types of things to really focus on so that you can shoot less and be more comfortable behind your camera. And then as far as editing goes, pick the smaller amount when you're editing. In other words, if you have 100 images from a session and you want to get that down to 30, don't pick 70 to remove, pick 30 to keep. Does that make sense? So you're picking 30 and you change your mindset accordingly. Like, okay, I'm going to keep 30. So I'm going through, I'm just going to pick 30 that I like, okay? As opposed to worrying about 70 that I have to get rid of. It's more than double the work, and vice versa. If you're going to keep 70 and get rid of 30, then just pick the 30 that you're going to get rid of, and then that's where your mindset is. It really does make a huge difference, especially for, bigger sessions. I said 100 images. We rarely start with 100 images. It's a point of contention.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here biting my lip right now.
Well, we have lots of points of contention. And maybe we'll get to some of those when we do our doghouse thing.
That's why that goes after this.
I was telling some people, I'm kind of in the doghouse right now for the way that I was last night, and we can talk about that too. I just haven't been very nice lately. Anyway. Been kind of mean. All right. So shoot less. All right, I'm going to keep going. Number 4, automate, automate, automate. Your computer is set up with these programs and these applications to do a tremendous amount of work for you. There's a learning curve virtually every time, whether you're using Lightroom and its presets, or they're using Photoshop and its actions, or whether you're syncing in Lightroom. But these are the types of things that we really, really, really need to get a hold of if we want to really shrink the amount of time that we're spending in post. Automate, you guys, all the time. You'll see on my desktop I have droplets up here that I use all the time. If I want to set up a preview, if I want to size something down to resolution of my projector, that's 1920 by 1080, turns it into a JPEG, I can grab a folder of 100 images, throw it on there, walk away, get a sandwich, come back, it's done. It's all finished. Or burrito. I like burritos too. So that's another thing I'm going to go over a little bit more in detail. And then don't export anything bigger than you need to export it. And this is something that I think people don't always have a handle on either. When you're exporting digital proofs, and it's just going to be for the screen, the resolution only needs to be 72 dpi. You don't need these gigantic files for your clients to see as proofs. you know? And some people do that because they do, you know, they work on every image, you know, they have 70 images of a session they're showing the client. They're going to go through and they're going to manipulate every image by hand, and that's how they want to do it. And I say, God bless you if that's the way you want to do it. But there is no way that I'm going to get caught doing that. I mean, I'll run an action on everything while I'm eating a sandwich, but it's going to get old, isn't it? But I am not going to sit there and retouch every image, and my client's going to order 3, 4, maybe 10 images if I'm lucky out of 70 that I spent, you know, 4 hours till 2 in the morning, you know, that night. I've just heard that story over and over and over again. So don't export anything bigger than you need to, because they can just be these little tiny small files. Res it to what your projector is. Like our projector is 1920 by 1080. That's the resolution of my projector. It's a 1080p projector. So just find out whatever you're projecting or however you're selling on your monitor. That's the resolution at 72 that you need to worry about for your client. Anything bigger than that is really a waste if it's just for digital proofs that you're showing people to sell. And it's just going to take up more space, and it's just going to take longer. And anytime they're moving, or you know, anything you're doing, anything with the files, even within the application, everything's just going to take longer. Okay, let's move on and get down to some of the nitty-gritty. Functional layer masks. I'm going to go through some things in Photoshop mostly now. Photoshop, I kind of divide it into 2 sections. Kind of the production, or maybe that would be left brain, analytical type, production type stuff, and then creative part, kind of the right brain. 2 separate things, 2 separate hats that you really have to wear. And I look at it this way because, well, for the longest time when we started our business, I was doing both. You know, like everything she shot, I would do everything in post, like all the editing, going through and color correcting, and then going through and doing all the retouching on everything, and then designing all the stuff, and it's 2 very, very different things. And some people are stronger at one and weaker at the other. Some people aren't good at either one, in which case hire somebody else to do it or outsource it. But I don't recommend doing both of these things for anyone, even if you're good at it, because it takes an awful lot of time. You know, and I really believe that for the most part, we should be either outsourcing this, because there's all kinds of options to do that, or hiring, you know, employees to come in and do some of it for us. Maybe not all of it, but some of it. Especially like first edits. You know, you go through, you have all these images. Let somebody come in and edit that down. We get interns. Interns are great. You know, I don't know if there's some interns here. I don't want to offend anybody, but interns are fantastic, especially high school interns. College interns, they get a little snooty. They kind of think that they've been there, done it. This is for my job. This is for my career. High school kids, they're just happy to be in there, you know. And if you get one that has an attitude, you just say goodbye and then get another one, because there's like a pool of high school kids at your high school that, I mean, it's photography. This is like the hottest thing to do right now. So you have tons of people to pull from. So when someone comes in and their problem, okay, goodbye. And then go get somebody else, and they'll come in, you have a new person, they can do your first editing or unwrap your packaging or whatever it is that you want an intern to do. Go to the post office or whatever we have.
Get a sandwich.
Get a sandwich for you. You know, if Jimmy John's is running slow that day for some reason. Okay, so I'm going to go over some things that maybe you should be doing yourself, or somebody that's more trained or skilled should be doing. Right away, I'm going to go into glass glare. Now, this is using layer masks. This is the functional use of a layer mask. Okay, this isn't going to be like really creative stuff. We're going to go through the boring production stuff first, then get into more of the creative, funner stuff later. But if you don't know how to use layer masks, and most people do, I think, nowadays, but some people still don't, or even if they do, they're not really comfortable with layer masks. Layer masks are essential in Photoshop if you're going to be working in Photoshop a lot. This is just a functional use of one with glass glare, but if you have glass glare, like this is what this woman looks like. We had her take her glasses off for one shot, and then you can just grab her eyes here with your lasso tool and do a quick copy, which is Command or Control C, and a quick paste, Command or Control V, and kind of line that up. I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see. And then I'm going to add a layer mask in my layers palette. I'm going to add a layer mask onto this layer up here, that one that I just pasted. And I'm going to hold down the Option key, and I'm going to hide everything when I click my layer mask button down here. Holding down the Option key gives me an automatic hide everything, because that's what layer masks are doing. I'm either hiding or revealing. You're not erasing with layer masks. It's non-destructive. That's what's so awesome about layer masks. You're either hiding or revealing. So I have this layer on top, okay? Why is it clicking? Okay. I have this layer on top. I don't know why it's doing that. There we go. And then I'm going to use my white brush. Let me just start over, because it's not working. Okay, so there's my layer on top. I'm going to put a layer mask on top of there after I get everything lined up first. Let me line it up. So I'll use my layer mode difference. Okay, this is in my layer modes. I'm going to go to difference, and this kind of gives you this negative effect. And I'm going to line up her eyes this way. It's a good way. This is a really good way to line things up. Okay, so I'm looking. I'm going to line up one of the eyes, and then I'm going to do a transformation, which is just Command or Control T, and I can move that midpoint over one of the eyes like that. Okay, and then it's going to rotate. That's the axis that's going to rotate on, and I'm going to line up the other eye like that. So it's just a little bit tilted. Now it's lined up. I'll go back to normal. Now I'm going to add my layer mask, and hopefully it'll work this time. That was weird. Okay, there we go. And I'll use my white brush, okay, at 100%. And now since that's all lined up, I know that I can just go in and get rid of that glass glare, and it's going to be really seamless. I'm even getting rid of that reflection on the frame, or from the glass. Okay, so the biggest thing here is, again, in the camera room, shoot, or on location, shoot them without their glasses. You just have to get them to take off their glasses like that, you know. And it also helps if they're going to be smiling, to get them to smile. I'm not really smiling right now, but if you get them to smile, you see how it changes their eyes. So get them to do this, and then get them to do serious. And if you have to turn them like this, and then get them to do this, you know, just take a few shots that way so that you have them on hand for your glass glare problems that you're going to have later. Because I'm telling you, if you don't know already, that's really hard to fix by itself. And we had a little rule at first, because Vicki was forgetting to get this shot. And then our rule was, okay, if you forget to get this shot, you get to fix this. And then she always got the shot after that, because it's really tough to do. You can work on this for 45 minutes to an hour, and the person will look like an alien afterwards. They'll look worse than what they did when you started. So it's important when you're dealing with glass glare to get this shot without the glasses. But that also is really a way where you can get what a layer mask does, okay? You're selectively hiding or revealing anything you want between two layers. And that comes into, well, here's a head swap, and this is where we're using puppies. This one's a little bit tougher, because I just got this last night. Okay, so what we're going to do is take this puppy's face here and put it on this one. It's a blinker. We've got a blinker. Even dogs blink, apparently. So I'm going to grab this. This is the part that makes me a little bit nervous, you know, because I didn't have any idea that I was going to be doing this until about 12:30 last night. Vicki's like, how about a dog head swap? It's like, yes, that's awesome.
I mean, which session to go to?
So we have this, again, I'm using difference to line that up, right? Okay, and I did this last night, and it did work, so I hope it still works today. But I'm just really going to be focusing on the eyes and the top half of the dog's face, nothing else, because he's blinking. So I'm going to line that up as best I can. I think maybe I should tilt it a little bit. It looks like it needs to be brought in a little bit, maybe squeezed down a little bit, and then kind of moved up. I'm just trying to line those eyes up as best I can. It looks a little weird on the screen, but then when you go back to normal, okay, I got that. Now I'm going to hold down my Option key and use a layer mask that's hiding everything. Black hides, so everything's hidden like it's not even there, right? And then if I use my white brush, I'm going to selectively reveal whatever I want on that layer mask. So I'll go in now. Oh, it's a little high. So you can see it's a little high. It's quite all right. We just move it down. We just move it down. Okay. You laugh at me. And then I'm going to go in here. Oh, it's a little wide. It's okay. It's okay, you guys. Because then we just bring it in like that, move it over like that. This is what happens on the back end, you guys. No, I didn't show you this. Okay? But this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like in a retoucher's dungeon, you know, and that's usually where I stay. Okay, so I'm just going to bring it in a little bit, and maybe I'll bring in some more light you know, I can get that eye. Now it's starting to work, see? Okay, I can bring in his eyebrow there.
Can I say something really quickly?
You sure can.
Well, no, I just wanted to say, just to clarify what he did with the glass glare in this actually would not be something, unless this was the only way to get an image of the two dogs looking, like, we don't purposely, like, try to go to all this work ahead of time. This would be a bottleneck. So even the glass glare, we don't fix the glass glare before the client's order.
Very good point.
We just have a folder in there called glass glare, and with like their raw captures, their JPEGs, glass glare. So whoever's retouching the images at whatever point they order, they can go to that folder. So that's
yeah,
not.
this is post-sale,
Yeah.
and I should have prefaced
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Now, something like this, though, if this were, or in a family shoot, whatever, the only way to get an image that's like, wow, they might do a wall portrait of this.
Oh, yeah.
Then you do it ahead
beforehand.
of time. I know I mentioned that yesterday, but do it ahead of time and give them something to buy.
Yeah, give them an option.
Because I would rather do that, spend a few minutes or pay someone to do it, than do a reshoot.
But see, that works pretty good. And you can still shift it around a little bit, okay? You know, the point is, it can be done, and it can be done quickly and easily, you know, with a layer mask. And that was just off the cuff. That's not normally what I show, but it works, you know. And I'm using transform, and I'm using a difference layer mode to line it up, and I'm using transform, free transform, which is Command or Control T. Then I'm using my layer mask. I'm hiding everything at first, so it's all black. And then I'm using a white brush on my black layer mask to reveal selectively what I want. And you just tool with it and play around a little bit, and you can pretty much nail it within, you know, a minute or so.